Hey.
Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show, special crossover version edition episode, whatever other tag we're going to put on this for today. Because what we're doing, the reason let's see,
Extravaganza.
Extravaganza.
Throw that
there
on
we
there.
go.
Extravaganza.
Ooh, whatever we're going to do today, yeah, that's me celebrating, believe it or not, really getting emotional about this. Whatever we're going to call this today, it is a crossover because we've got Ashi Mittal joining us, not as a guest, which is funny to say, as a partner in crime in what we're doing with our Power Tribe launch with Tribe and Purpose. So the Cam and Otis Show and the Tribe and Purpose and the Power Tribe all having the extravaganza. And today I want to talk about clarity and why clarity is that thing that we all need to get us going in the direction we want to go. So Ashi, tell us about clarity, please.
Oh gosh, clarity can mean so many different things to so many people. But honestly, I always define it as having those clear moments, having those moments of just utter transcendence where you can see yourself going for miles and you can see the route up the mountain. All of a sudden it's that energetic jazz moment. It's like, oh my gosh, I know. And you just have to quickly scramble and write it down. You have to type it out. Your fingers aren't moving fast enough, but it's literally the culmination of expectation, of your understanding, and honestly of where you want to be. You're like, okay, I can finally see it. And I will jump into the void here, being less analytical and more gut instinctual, all right? That feeling that's backed up by fact, right? I mean, you just vibe it, it aligns from head to toe, and that's what you're meant to do. And when you get that feeling of clarity, it's like this lovely voice that's singing from the mountaintop because that's where you're headed. That's what I think clarity means, of course. Very beautiful. Lots of scenery. And by the way, happy Earth Day 2021 out there to everybody. So clarity, important. Without it, you're lost and you're wandering around the forest.
Camden.
Well, happy Earth Day to you too, Ashi. To me, when I think about clarity, I really think first in terms of control, because I think you can take it a lot of different places. To your point, Ashi, it's a very, it's a broad word, but it's really, to me, what's inside your control and what's outside your control, and being able to focus on those type of things. For me, in my own life as an entrepreneur, I've found that when I am the most anxious, the most stressed, and struggling most with my work is when I'm focusing on things that are outside of my control. I'm trying to please people instead of focusing on my work and doing things like that. And really, the more you apply that to the rest of your life, the more clarity you get. And you wind up getting that kind of flow that you're talking about, Ashi, not just in work, but in the rest of your life. Dad, you ran me through this exercise probably about 1.5 years ago, the perfect day exercise, which I do with my team for Verbi. And when you do that, you start thinking about things in terms of, why do I actually enjoy it? Beyond just the gut reaction of what you're doing there. Obviously, you're going to go enjoy some things immediately, but it's like, what are you really getting out of it? Is this contributing to who I am as a person in the long run? And when you start being more analytical about things, you really get that clarity of your actions. Should I really be doing this or should I not be doing this? And, some of them, sometimes the water is very muddied and it's hard to tell. And you got to pull some things apart to see what you're really getting out of it versus what you're not. But clarity is the tool that you can use with that, focusing on what's inside your control, what's outside your control, and, what you want to get out of life and what you don't want to get out of life just the same. And being able to balance all of those so that you can move through life with clarity.
No, that's great. And I, as y'all were talking, I was thinking about the performance disciplines that I learned through IPEC, Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. Say that 3 times fast. But those performance disciplines, the first couple are the ones that always kind of get me excited and kind of get you into the flow of it, because it's that awareness, acceptance, and then conscious choice. Because when you have that awareness of what's happening, where you are, the situation you're in, what's going on, what you can and cannot control, and then the acceptance of those things, what you can and cannot control in those things, and then you're making this conscious choice of what to do and what to focus on. That helps you perform. And that's that's where that clarity comes in. But the thing that I want to harp on, because folks get nervous and anxious about clarity. They're like, oh my God, I don't have it. I'm lost. All that sort of thing. And I think that's an interesting place to be, because truthfully, and the people I've talked to, clients and non-clients and just folks I know, there's a whole lot of people out there that, they don't know what clarity is, and they're apprehensive to do anything because they're not sure. They're afraid of that commitment. So I'll toss it out to y'all. Whoever wants to go. I'm not going to play the panel thing where you answer this. But what do you think about that clarity? And somebody who doesn't have it, what do they do?
Really, my advice on that would be accept where you are today and accept those marginal improvements, because clarity is not some magic pill like in the Matrix where you see the world as it really is. It's not really what's going to happen. Okay, you're going to incrementally notice things and adjust your behavior accordingly, and it's a long journey. I can say that I've been working on this probably, I would say religiously, for probably about close to a year maybe, but I've been working on myself and finding clarity and having all those different things so that I can have clarity in my life and focus on things better. And really, it's about accepting where you are along that journey, because it's a long journey to self-improvement and to clarity. And if you just get down in the dumps about how far you have left to go, or about, not being there yet, feeling negative about where you are today, you're going to struggle with that a lot. But if you just keep thinking that you're along that journey and you're incrementally improving every single day, you're going to get there faster than you think.
Yeah, I think it's also going back to identifying the signs, right? I'm always somebody who loves to be what I call proactively preventative, right? How far are you away from the cliff or that bridge that's out, and you don't want to cross that bridge, right? If you want to cross that bridge, that's a completely different conversation. But literally identifying the signs. And I love what you said, Camden, about meeting yourself where you are. I think there's so much pressure that we put on ourselves to find the right thing, to find the perfect thing, to make all these changes and deal with the procrastination and dealing with missing deadlines and dealing with, that mental fear and paralysis. And I love it. It's not just, it's awareness, it's acceptance. And, in the world of strategic planning, that's like assessment. Like, it's an assessment 101. You're assessing yourself. You're honestly saying, look, here's where we are. Here are our strengths. Here are our weaknesses. Here are the opportunities. How do you fall into the world of habits? How do we create new habits? And it's not an instantaneous fix, guys. It's not like, okay, well, I started a calendar and I've got a schedule and, I'll be the person who I want to be in 35 seconds or by the end of the workday. Habits do take time. The trick is that you keep up with them and you keep making progress and you keep moving forward, but also cut yourself some slack, okay? Give yourself a break. You will screw up, okay? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's how you deal with the screw ups, and it's the fact of, in my clients, it's let's get you up. Let's dust off those knees. Maybe you change your dress, ladies, and we keep on going. So once again, identification, and then solutions that fit you, right? As a solutionist, as a precision problem solver, it's not a one size fits all, right? And keep the overwhelming thoughts under control. It's always a mind game, guys, okay? The mind is the first step. Dreaming, imagining, that's a new word for you guys. Imagining what is happening, what you need to do to deal with those problems, and take tiny steps forward, and then talk about it, verbalize it, okay? And then we go into doing. So even if it's one thing, for instance, if you are dealing with procrastination and you just can't even get yourself started, maybe you get an accountability partner. I think that's a wonderful way where Tribe and Purpose could really come in, where you work with them and you're setting up, hey, look, I need you to stay on me about this, and you work out those details. But once again, shallow sips, big sips, then you're swallowing that bullet, right?
Mhm.
So makes a big difference in that realm of control you've spoken about, Camden.
I like to look at it. I was thinking about it this way. In the business world, I learned a long time ago that, 50% or even 40% of a $100 million contract, back when I was doing the government contracting stuff, that's $40 million. And if you think about what you're not quite sure what your purpose is, you're not quite sure about clarity, wouldn't you like to have just a little bit of it and try it? I mean, that's what's popping into my head. I would much rather have a little bit of effort towards what I'm guessing, because it can be a guess sometimes if you just have no clue what I'm guessing my purpose is, and start to have that clarity. The other thing about clarity in that sense, and I talk about this on the military side, in the land navigation, we're going to the objective. And in the literal sense too, when you think about that clarity, that literal sense of you get closer to it, the object, the thing you're going after, you're closer to, guess what? It's more clear. You can see more of it.
Mhm.
When you start back over here, thousands of kilometers away, looking at satellite imagery and all those sort of things, guess what? You still, until you get on the objective and see what's on the objective, you don't have total clarity. Until you put boots on the ground, you don't have total clarity. And that's the same thing. We move towards it with our best guess of the information that we have of what our purpose is. And that's how we develop clarity. We gather information, we're collecting it as we walk towards it, and we get closer to it. I mean, pull out your binos, pull out your spotting scope. You get closer to it and you see more of it. And then guess what? More clarity. And you can confirm or deny what you're looking for, what you're looking at. That's where I'm thinking, a little bit of it and walking towards it. Movement is so critical.
What keeps coming to mind for me on this, and I think I've got this right, but Ashi, you can check me on it. So when Michelangelo was crafting David, right? I match those two up, right? Michelangelo and David. So maybe. And so, when he's asked about it, he says, I just chipped away that which was not David. And I heard that similar phrasing of that from a fighter recently. I think it might have been Cousin Connor, but he was talking about how you get in, and it's not about increasing your skills; it's about decreasing what you don't want out of yourself. And I think that's an equally important thing when you're talking clarity. It's not just building up the things that you want; it's getting rid of the things that you don't want. And the Seneca quote that I'm going to use for that I'm going to turn into a question for y'all is, be ruthless to that which does not matter. So my question to you two then is, what is an instance in your life where you've looked at something and even though you felt like you liked it, your gut reaction was liking it, you realized that it was something that you needed to cut out of your life in order to become who you're wanting to be? So either one of y'all can go first.
Well, getting rid of things is, I have a bad habit of that sometimes. That thing has been sitting on the counter for a few weeks, and you're like, or months or years, and you toss it, and then guess what? You need it that next week. But in the real sense of it, that's such an important thing to do. And actually, when I'm coaching folks, I also, when they don't know, I tell them then, well, what don't you like? Start there. If you don't like to, I don't know, sit in an office in a cubicle complex with a computer all day, every day, in that sort of environment, then okay, there's one thing. Yep, okay, don't like that. So how do you not have more of that? Prevent more of that? That's one of I think it's actually easier if you don't have that clarity of what your purpose is. I think it's easier to identify those things that you don't want.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes, I have a foot in both camps here because sometimes I think it's easier to identify what you don't want versus what you want. And sometimes it's just definitely easier. I mean, answering your question, it's so, once again, Camden, so timely, right? This week, this has happened because sometimes coaches need coaches too. And I was speaking to my sport, and we literally wrote it out. I mean, she had me go down and do the same exercise I do with my own clients, where we talk about mandates and our negotiables. And but I just looked at the list of mandates, and you have the things you absolutely want and the things you absolutely don't want, right? In that middle column, the negotiables, that yellow, I call it the green, red, yellow light system. Things you can pick and choose. And even that required a good looking over, because I was serving on a couple of organizations where, yes, granted, it's 1 hour a month, and I don't need to do anything even as the president, because I've got a great team. I come in, I lead, I'm prepped, and we go to town. And I said, even though it's that 1 hour, it's still taking up a lot of mental energy, because we're talking about fundraising campaigns, we're talking about having conversations with people coming on our board. And then they asked, hey, look, are you wanting to go through the offboarding process? In other words, basically give up my gavel. And early on, about even a week ago, I was like, oh, I can do this for another year. Like, that's fine. And then I just literally looked at this list and I said, oh, gosh, no. And I removed about 4 or 5 things that were literally minimal on my plate. I mean, not even 1% of what I do. But up here, it was taking up a good 20%. And even Otis, when you and I were having a conversation, about this earlier, like, Ashi, you got to be drinking your own Kool-Aid. You got to be setting your priorities. And even though it doesn't take a lot of time, and that's what we associate with clarity, with priority, with productivity. We're like, how many hours are we doing? And my rule of thumb is, look, I'd rather be doing 3 hours of honest work a day than doing busy work that's not helping me find my passion and my purpose, offering clarity or productivity in the way I need it to be for 8 hours. So a good tip for you all to try, once again, just write out what makes you happy, what doesn't, what's working for you, and what's not.
The thing I'll add to that is it's important to take it beyond the gut reaction of whatever it is you're talking about. If it's something you enjoy or something you don't enjoy, be critical of that, because we all have biases that we've built into ourselves over the course of our lives about why we feel certain ways about things. And you have to realize that that's not necessarily the smartest way to look at different problems. I'll use an example. Dad, you and I both love our Colorado Avalanche. I love to sit and watch hockey games, but they play in a normal year 81 games a season. I can't sit and watch all 81 games as much as I would love to. But that is a passion of mine. I do love the Colorado Avalanche, and I love watching games. I love hockey. But it's how important is that for me? 82 games, I'm going to do the quick math on it, call it 3 hours a game. We're looking at over 240 hours, 10 days that you're spending just watching hockey, not even counting playoffs or preseason or researching the lineups or anything like that. And when you start looking at it like that, it's okay, what else am I getting out of this? And I realized that for me, part of the Colorado Avalanche is part of that. Part of the value of that is being part of that tribe. It's watching games with people. It's being able to talk about it with my friends. And I've realized that as much as when I look, when I picture my tombstone, I don't picture avid Colorado Avalanche fan on there, but I do want to be a very good friend. And a lot of my friends like the Avalanche. And so there is still a connection there. I'm not watching as many games, but I'm still allowing myself to go watch them and still enjoy it, because it is contributing to my overall vision of who I am for myself. And I that's why I think it's a fun example, but it's important to be a little bit critical of those gut reactions that you're having about things when you're trying to decide what to cut off and, what to build onto.
Yeah, well, and I'll just let you know a little secret. If you have a good friend who does watch all those games, it's a great resource to get updates from.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very good at the executive summaries for me. So I appreciate that, Andy. Keep it up, please, brother. But, if you step back, and I think, Ashi, you were talking about that, step back and look at it from the outside, what's another perspective of it, or an accountability partner, or do something that, I did a couple of times when I was in the Army, depending on the organization I was in. We did manpower analysis, and it was literally, how do you spend your time? And if you spend, you can do it in a week, you can do it in a day. You know, if you really want to get some ideas on where you're spending your time, do it 2 weeks. Do 2 weeks and just keep a time log on yourself. What are you doing? What are you spending your time on? And then look at that and see if that matches what you believe your priorities are. And also, while you're at it, check your priorities. Do your priorities support what you're trying to achieve? Do you have priorities over here and a goal and or vision? You know, your priorities of work, the things that you're doing first thing every day, do those support and match what you say you're trying to do? Or are you just a beer talker? You know, somebody that says over a beer, man, I'm gonna blah blah blah. I'm gonna have 10,000 followers, and I'm gonna save the turtles and all those sort of things. So, okay, Arizona, how are you gonna do all that stuff, right? Because there ain't no oceanfront property.
No, you gotta have a heck of a plan if you're gonna save the turtles from Arizona.
But that's my point. So, are you spending time, sweeping sand off your porch all day in Arizona? Because it happens in Arizona, doesn't it? Sand all blows up on your porch. You got to sweep it off. So you can't go save the sea turtles. So you just see where you're spending your time. Because, truthfully, where you spend your time is what you value. And if you're spending your time in things you don't value, you're lying to yourself. In one of those two instances, got to figure out which one. Actually, I can see the wheels turning on that.
Oh my goodness. No, I love you, Otis, even more so now than I ever did before because of the tracking of the time. I mean, once again, I have a time tracking exercise. You have your perfect day exercise, where do you want to be in 5 years and whatnot. We have something similar, but for me from the get-go, it always goes back to the time tracker because I don't even need to say anything. All I have to do is just send them this particular exercise. It's automated and whatnot. And then the insight and the revelation comes their own front door before I even have to say anything. So yeah, definitely try for a couple of weeks. I also want to say, guys, that you always can lose money. You can always gain money, but you will never get your time back. And I think also, and this is just me, sure, you have your gut instinct to back it up by fact, but quite frankly, you're going to find out really quickly if you got excited about something or you're using your time in a way that you don't want to. It is going to come out very, very quickly. So can't run, you can't hide.
One other thing I wanted to add on is we're talking about, asking why, checking your gut reflex, but then also, making sure that you're looking at that gut reaction because it is a very important, tool. The one caveat I want to throw onto all of this is don't let that feeling of resistance tell you that this isn't the right thing to do. So when you're working towards something, it's something that you thought you might be excited about, or when you look at it critically, you say, this is something I need to do. Sometimes those are the hardest things to do. And they'll make you so anxious because you're fearful that you may fail. You're fearful that you may succeed. Whatever aspect is going on in the back of your mind. You're going to feel that resistance the most when you're moving towards goals that are important to you. And so it's really important to not mistake that feeling of resistance, that feeling of doubt, that fear. Don't mistake that for it not contributing to your goal. Just because there is a negative feeling there doesn't mean that it's something you can't do. If you might get nervous before a phone call, but that may be the most important phone call of your life. You got to make sure you're checking all of those different feelings, the positive ones and the negative ones, because when it comes down to it, those gut reactions are very, very useful, but your body likes to play tricks on you sometimes. So you got to make sure you're stepping back and not letting things like resistance fool you into a lack of movement.
Right. And it's not just fear, guys. I mean, it's also exhaustion. I remember about 9 months ago, there was this online networking thing. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I'm tired. I'm on like 14 hours straight. I have not seen anything outside of this office. I would like to be reminded of what it's like outside where people are, right? And I was like, I don't want to go. And then I just, I was, feeling guilty about it. So I went. Well, let me tell you something. I went and I started working with Jennifer Lopez's company, one of her companies. And it's all because I showed up that freaking day at that event. So when you don't even want to do it, that's like when you really have to go, guys. Like really hit the drive button. So don't let exhaustion or fear push you out. And I love what you said, Otis, about anything worth having is worth working for, but also worth working for to keep. I think that's the other part of the adage there, for sure.
Oh, that's great. And what I'd like to do is just kind of, we've talked a lot about, the self-mental focus. And what I'd love to do is just kind of shift us into, well, what's it like to be part of a group, a tribe? Particularly we talk about our power tribe, but even if you're not a member of the power tribe, what else can you do? Ashi, you mentioned something earlier about accountability partners. We kind of touched on some things, but I think there's some real lessons in there of, if you're trying to do it by yourself, you can do it, but man, it's a lot harder. And I don't know about y'all, but having done a few things a few times, it's much easier and much more enjoyable when I'm doing it with other people. It just reminds me of a really sad thing we used to say is misery loves company. Now, not saying that pursuing your purpose is going to be miserable, but what I am saying is that group of people around you, they're willing to, pick up the yoke with you, to use that old term, or my favorite, they'll grab a shovel and dig the hole with you. If you got the right people around you, they're going to help you. They're going to help you by grabbing a shovel or a paintbrush if you're Huck Finn. No, that's Tom Sawyer who did the paintbrush thing. Got the boys whitewashing the fence. But that's what it's like to have that group around you. It really helps to accelerate you and get you moving towards more fulfillment of your purpose.
To me, when I think about accountability partners in this kind of a space, I think about how really what you're getting out of, and I've gotten this out of some people in my tribe, is on a good day, I described my dreams and my visions and my goals and all of that kind of stuff. So they've all know what I actually want to get out of life. And then they've been around me on the days where I'm not having that energy. And so I'm, choosing the shortcuts and I'm not putting in the effort on these different things. And they can check you with such specific points that it'll completely break you out of that cycle. If I'm working with my co-founder for Verbi, Norman, all day, and we're stressed out about work, and I'm like, okay, man, I think I'm gonna miss rugby today. I don't think I can go coach rugby today. I need to stay and work on this. He'll go, dude, don't you want to coach rugby? Isn't that a big part of your life, is to grow the game of rugby? Because he knows that, because he's my co-founder. We talk about these things. And so you can check me on that, because quite frankly, when I go coach rugby, I get that energy and I go work on Verbi right afterwards, or I get motivated and I start getting new ideas. It's something that it all fits into my vision, and it's all fits in for a reason. And on the hard days, on the negative days, it's really difficult to see that. But that's why you have these accountability partners in your tribe, because they've seen you on the good days. They know what you really want, not what you want right now, but they know what you really want to get out of this day, and they'll help push you for that.
No, I think that's crucial. I have the same thing happening here. We've got another major project we're working on called Get Your Life Back. Of course, you gentlemen know all about that, the women's professional experience, how to help women, honestly, get their lives back, get what they want out of life, not to just survive and thrive, but to feel alive, right? And Monday was not a good day. On a scale of 1 to 10, Asha was at the point of Mount Vesuvius. 10. And my accountability partner, my co-founder for this venture, she was like, yeah, what's going on with you? Let's talk shop. I said, I just want to go and just run away into the jungle where nobody can find me. And we were just talking about, she said, no, seriously, take half an hour. to yourself. Just do the one thing you want to do. If it's driving with the top down before the snow comes, which we did get a snowstorm after 70-degree weather, is it literally eating your favorite treat and just in a non-gluttonous kind of way, but just take time for yourself, whatever that is, that guilty pleasure. And I will say that just even going for a run outside, feeling the sun on my face, hearing the birds, feeling the wind. I mean, it was transformational. It was transcendental, such transcendence. So it's really important to have somebody, one, call you out, but somebody who also knows you. I think you can hook up and have a group of people all you want, okay, and do do-si-dos and have merry-go-rounds and have all the fun in the world. But if they do not get to know you and vice versa and really feel one another out, it's problematic. And that's what this is about. We're taking a group of amazing people who want to transcend, transform, and really, really have that support system where there is this understanding, there is mutual respect, there is push and the drive. You don't have to push everybody all the time, but it's like, look, I know when you haven't been trying or you've been having a difficult time, and let's take it on. Let's be there. Let's help you go ham, right? I mean, that's what it's about.
Oh, that's great. And in keeping with the crossover, I'm going to bring us back to the Cam and Otis show tradition of what'd you learn? And because I'm a Texas boy, I'm just going to say, ladies first. So Ashi, please share with us what you learned today.
Oh, goodness. I've learned to give you girth with those references, first and foremost, Otis. That's one. Whenever you bring up the Texas boy concept, I can't help but chuckle. But for me, I've really just learned, and it seems to be thematic for this part of the week, and gotten reminders of, once again, you have people in your corner. You have people there. Don't forget that. Don't forget that there's that support and that resource when you're going through a tough time, when you're stressed, when you feel like you're overwhelmed, when you want and are praying for patience and asking God not to give you the strength to knock someone to kingdom come. That's a big one. So reminding that they're there and utilizing that, because it's a gift and it needs to be nurtured, and you get out what you put in, for sure.
That's great. And for me, I didn't call it this, but when you were talking earlier about all these things to do, there's a little rule or a law that I learned actually fairly recently called open cycles, the law of open cycles. And it's an amazing thing that when you think about it, those things that aren't important, that are just kind of like the tick off the to-do list, oh crap, I need to empty the dishwasher sort of things. Those are open cycles, or I need to return a phone call, whatever it is. Those are open cycles and become distractors for the main things that you have to do. And that's a great reminder of, if you got a bunch of open cycles going on, I mean, that's what that is. You think about the closed loop things. An open cycle is it just stops. It doesn't go, but it continues to take that energy away. So you take that moment and look at those things and say, hey, how many open cycles do I have, and how do I fix those and close them so that I can focus on what's important? Camden, what'd you learn?
So I've realized this happens quite a bit with the Cam and Otis show when we talk through different themes like this. It comes down to hearing a different phrasing of a word or a different definition of a word that I just love, because, I mean, frankly, I've been taught by a lot of people over the course of my life, even my shorter life compared to you, Dad. And I'm not going to go there, Ashi, but I caught myself. But I've had a lot of different people teach me very similar things to what we're talking about now. But the difference is the phrasing that I got from them. And I've found that, especially rugby comes a lot to mind, of course, but that it's just, there's these little phrases that just stick in the back of my mind for some reason all the time. And it's just something that inspires me. And it's that new definition that is going to sit in the back of my mind for some reason that actually gets you to think about these things. I could talk about clarity all the time, but if none of my phrases or sentences that I put out resonate with you, then you're not going to think about this when you're leaving. And Ashi, you said, see the route up the mountain. And I just love that because I'm a Colorado boy. You might be a Texas boy, Dad. I'm a Colorado boy. I love my mountains. I love staring at the mountains and picturing myself hiking up there. And to me, that is such a beautiful picture for clarity, because when you're down at the base of a mountain, even if you're, in the front range where you're already up pretty high in altitude, go up that 14-year, when you're looking up it looks so easy. And you can start moving towards the mountain because you can see what you're going for. But the fact is, there's going to be so much that you don't see along the way that's going to get in your way. But you know that you just keep moving up that mountain and you follow that route that you see. And I really just love that definition of clarity. And that's going to be what I'm using.
No, that's great. Before I have you run us out, Camden, Ashi, just give a little snippet of a couple of things that you got going on.
Oh my goodness. So you've heard a little bit about Get Your Life Back, the professional woman's experience. And we talk about the idea that you are enough, right? Sure, we'll talk about things like imposter syndrome and good communication habits. But honestly, it's getting back to the basics of who you are, what you want, what your purpose is, and how do you get there? And you're not alone. Okay, you are not the only woman to face these challenges and these issues. So we are kicking off some exciting projects. So I can't talk too much about that aspect with Get Your Life Back, but there's always book projects in the work. We've got a lot of client work going on in the nonprofit world. I can now officially say this. I'm so excited. We are launching a worldwide nonprofit accelerator. Okay, so basically we are teaming up the people who have the financial resources with those who have the ability and the mission to make it happen, where we are literally taking the UN's list of most critical problems around the world, whether it's pollution, the blue economy, food insecurity, and we are taking it from global to local to personal. So we are kicking that off very, very shortly. And there are some worldwide events that I know will be making headlines here come June. So there's a lot going on in my world right now.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And we'll be sure to just include that as we push out our show notes and make sure that, folks can find and keep track of those things. Because yeah, you may not be able to share it, but they want to know. Everybody, to include me, wants to know. I'm pretty excited. That's my excited face. Know what's going on. So, Ashi, thanks. It's always fun to have you join us and be part of this Power Tribe journey and growing that and helping people have more success and fulfillment in their life. Camden, run us out.
Thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Cam and Otis Show. Special thanks to our guest, Ashi Mittal, and our sponsors, Verbi Virtual Events and Tribe and Purpose. Find your purpose, build your tribe. You can check out recent episodes of the Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotusshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.